In a distant time, in the tranquil village of Nubia, there lived a stunningly beautiful princess named Nkem. She was the jewel of the kingdom of Nduka, renowned for her beauty that could capture the heart of anyone who laid eyes upon her. Nkem was so enchanting that when she graced the village with her presence, it was an event that sparked a celebration throughout the land. Her father, King Obi, cherished her deeply. As his only child, Nkem was the apple of his eye, the light of his life. Though King Obi had hoped for a son to inherit his throne, he loved Nkem dearly and dreamed of her marrying a man who would love and protect her just as he did. Despite the luxury and affection lavished upon her, Nkem had a heart full of kindness. She often shared her wealth with the poor and gathered the village children to tell them stories under the light of the full moon. She was beloved by all, not just for her beauty but for her compassionate nature. But deep within the shadowy forest of Nubia, a dark-hearted witch named Duvessa plotted against Nkem. Once, Duvessa had been the most beautiful maiden in the village. However, her vanity and selfishness had angered the goddess of beauty, who cursed her with a hideous appearance, making her have different ugly appearance every day. Unable to bear the shame, Duvessa withdrew to the depth of the forest, where she festered in her bitterness and envy. Over time, the villagers forgot about Duvessa, no longer praising her beauty but instead speaking of Nkem's radiance, comparing her to the first light of dawn. This drove Duvessa mad with jealousy, and she vowed to destroy Nkem. She concocted a sinister plan to poison the princess, not with death, but with a curse that would trap her between the worlds of the living and the dead, thereby restoring Duvessa's lost beauty. One night, Duvessa stood over a bubbling cauldron in her dark lair, stirring a vile potion that would set her plan in motion. She chanted spells and called upon dark forces until a brown dove appeared. The witch smeared the poison onto the bird's talons, knowing that Nkem, with her love for animals, would be an easy target. The next morning, Nkem awoke with a light heart, eager to spend time in her favorite garden feeding the birds. After greeting her father, King Obi, she headed to the palace gardens. As usual, her handmaidens accompanied her but knew she preferred to be alone when feeding the birds. In the garden, the birds flocked to her, knowing she always came with food. As she scattered the grains, a brown dove landed on her wrist, pecked her gently, and then flew away. Nkem felt a sharp prick but thought little of it until a sudden wave of drowsiness overcame her. She collapsed onto the ground, unconscious. Back in her lair, Duvessa smiled wickedly. Her plan had worked perfectly. She knew that breaking this curse would be nearly impossible, requiring a journey across the 7 seas to the land of spirits, a place so dangerous that even the bravest warriors dared not tread there. When Nkem didn't return by midday, King Obi grew worried and sent her handmaidens to fetch her. They found her lying on the ground, pale and lifeless. The king rushed to her side, his heart filled with dread. He immediately called for the village seer, a wise elder known for his knowledge of ancient magic. The seer examined Nkem and grimly informed the king that she had been cursed. "She has only 1 month to live," he said gravely. "Her spirit is trapped between the world of the living and the world of the dead, far across the 7 seas. Only a true hero can save her by braving the journey to the land of spirits." A proclamation was made, offering a great reward to anyone brave enough to undertake the perilous journey to save Princess Nkem. Yet the villagers, knowing the dangers that lay ahead, were reluctant to volunteer. But then, a young hunter named Chidi, an orphan who had grown up in the village, stepped forward. The villagers mocked him, saying he might be skilled with a bow, but he was no match for the challenges of the spirit world. Chidi, however, was determined. He loved Nkem from afar, admiring her kindness and beauty, and was willing to risk everything for her. King Obi, though concerned, gave Chidi his blessing and provided him with enchanted charms for protection. As Chidi set off on his journey, Duvessa, now restored to her former beauty by the curse she had placed on Nkem, returned to the village. Her arrival caused a stir as people whispered about the mysterious woman whose beauty rivaled even that of Princess Nkem. When the news of this beautiful stranger reached King Obi, he was entranced by her charm. Though still worried for his daughter, he found himself drawn to Duvessa. Soon, he announced his intention to marry her, though the elders cautioned him to wait until the month had passed and Nkem's fate was known. But the king, under the spell of Duvessa's dark magic, was insistent. Meanwhile, Chidi crossed 6 seas, facing numerous challenges along the way. But when he reached the 7th sea, it refused to carry him across. The sea spoke, "Tell me a riddle. And if I cannot solve it, I will grant you passage. But if I solve it, you must return and start your journey again. You have 3 attempts." Chidi pondered deeply before asking, "I am something people celebrate or resist. I change people's thoughts and lives. I am obvious to some people, but to others, I am a mystery. What am I?" The 7th sea laughed loudly. "Age," it answered. Chidi tried again, "Sometimes narrow, sometimes wide, wind or rain, I stay outside. Even if there's heat or snow, from house to house, I will still go. What am I?" The 7th sea roared in laughter again and replied, "A path." With only 1 attempt left, Chidi thought long and hard. Finally, he asked, "What belongs to you, but is used more by others than by you?" The sea thought and thought but could not answer. Frustrated, it asked Chidi for the answer. Chidi smiled and said, "Your name." The sea, bound by its promise, carried him across to the land of spirits. Before Chidi left, the sea advised him, "When you face the spirits, remember these words: take a step, I go back, I go forth, I go left, I go right, I know I will be alright." Chidi thanked the sea and continued his journey into the eerie, silent land of the spirits. As he ventured deeper, he was challenged by the spirits to prove his worth. They warned him that a single misstep would send him into the fiery abyss below. Chidi recalled the sea's advice and repeated the words, moving carefully: "Take a step, I go back, I go forth, I go left, I go right, I know I will be alright." He moved forward, following the path as instructed. Suddenly, a brilliant light enveloped him, and a gong appeared in his hands. A spirit told him, "Strike this gong thrice when you return to Nubia, and it will free Princess Nkem. But remember, strike it only 3 times, no more, no less. This will also break the spell on the king." Chidi realized that the king had also been ensnared by dark magic. With renewed determination, he thanked the spirits, blew the horn once, and found himself back in the village. Back in Nubia, the villagers were on the brink of rebellion. The king, under Duvessa's spell, had neglected his duties and was preparing to marry her. As Chidi returned, he saw the chaos brewing and knew he had little time. He struck the gong thrice. At the sound, Duvessa let out a shriek of pain, her beauty fading as she transformed back into the ugly witch. The spell on King Obi was broken, and he saw Duvessa for who she truly was. Princess Nkem awoke from her enchanted sleep, and the villagers rushed to her side. Duvessa, now powerless and despised, was captured and imprisoned in the deepest dungeon, where she lived out her days in misery. Chidi was hailed as a hero, and King Obi gratefully offered him Nkem's hand in marriage. Chidi and Nkem were married in a grand celebration, and peace returned to the kingdom of Nduka. Their love story was told for generations, a tale of bravery, true love, and the triumph of good over evil.